So, so let's discuss security violations. What is a security violation? How do you know if you have one? Well, one of the things I'll go to is if you have something that's marked as classified or as confidential, secret, or top secret, they need to be locked in a safe in a secure container when not in use. And in top secret and some secret information needs to have alarms, be behind set alarms behind a vault or something. So they need protection. So if you walk into work the next day and you go and you find a secret document sitting on a desk or a secret document printed and left on a printer or a document left on a microwave and it's marked secret or confidential or top secret, you've got a security violation. If a classified product or a classified item is not where it should be and under the protection that should be afforded to it based on its classification markings, you've got a security violation. Now, security violations do happen. They happen a lot, like I mentioned. I gave you an example of some real security violations that I've seen in the past. We've seen classified items left on top of security containers, on top of safes, and not locked inside. What if this happens? What if you are receiving, what if you receive a mailed item? This is a proper marking, all right? So sometimes you might receive a classified package that is addressed properly, but what happens if it's ripped or damaged? You don't know if anybody has accessed it, right? You know it's marked classified on the inside, but we don't know if it has actually been accessed in an unauthorized manner and what information was leaked. So if you have a security violation or security infraction and you want to determine whether or not it's reportable, you have to perform an investigation on it. And these investigations, you ask the 5 questions: who, what, when, where, how, and why. And your job is to determine if classified information was leaked or provided in an unauthorized manner. Sometimes a classified document laying out does not disclose anything if you discover that nobody had access to it. But if it's laid out in a commons area and people had access to it and they didn't have need to know, well, that's a security violation. We'll talk about more about those later. But how do you handle security violations? One of the things, once a security violation is completed and a report has been made and it's closed out, you should be able to access that data to provide good training to your cleared employees. For example, what if you had an employee that always forgot to lock the security container and set the alarm? What if you had an employee or a section or a unit of employees who constantly forgot to take classified information off the printer or constantly forgot to set the alarm at the end of the day or do end-of-day checks? You've got an issue there. So security violations can be data that you can use for input to additional training that you give at your company. Your cleared employees need to know what the problem areas are, and they need ways to fix those problem areas so they don't reoccur. Too many security violations. During a reportable security violation, you always want to report who performed a security violation, what the disciplinary action was. And so if that person were to get more than 1 or more than 2 or 3, they could potentially lose their security clearance. So you want to use these security violations or infractions as a learning process to help train employees and break bad security habits. These violations may also indicate who might be an insider threat. Maybe somebody is purposefully trying to exfiltrate classified information for nefarious reasons such as espionage. So you want to use data that you can get from a security violation or multiple security violations to prevent bad practices or to discover potential threats of espionage or potential insider threat of one way or the other. So the thing that you don't want to do with security data. What you do want to do when you report security violations is indicate who was at fault and remedial actions. But if you use the security data for training, you don't want to report those. You want to strip down personal data and just use the information so that nobody knows who committed the infractions. You can even be more generic to say that it didn't even happen in the company if you want to do it that way. But security violation information or infractions is very important, and if used properly, can improve your security program. Here are some examples of security violations and how they have been used to improve security programs. Okay, so at one time, these are real. Many years ago, when I was a private in the Army, I was responsible for bringing encryption devices from one building to another. And the person gave me a canvas bag to use to transport these encryption items, and they were classified. And as we were transporting them, by the time we got to the place where we were supposed to be, we discovered that we were missing a couple. That was very unfortunate. What had happened was there was a hole in the bag that we were transporting them. But since we were responsible for transporting them, we were subject to the investigation. We did a search of the area, backtracked our steps, and ended up finding everything. And that's a good thing. It closed out in a positive. We realized through this training that we cannot be using canvas bags or things that have holes in them or a potential. So out of this, we were able, our sergeants and us, we were able to look at what happened and change the way that we transported classified items. In this situation, classified information was not exposed, but the potential for unauthorized exposure was great if somebody was able to get these encryption devices. But we were able to recover them, and we use this incident as in future training events. Okay, so now here's another example of security infraction or security violation that was investigated and used, and the information was used later to improve the security program. We had employees who worked together in separate offices. That, what I mean by work together, they worked for the same company, but they worked on two different contracts. At one point, one employee went to use the restroom and gave their classified information to another employee to keep an eye on while they were gone. Wasn't long before we got a call that said, hey, classified information was left unattended. The person that they had left the classified information with also got called away from their desk. They forgot they were watching classified information and left that classified information unattended. So the original person called us and said, hey, look, we have a potential situation here. So we went out to investigate that. And it turns out, as I mentioned, they were co-workers, but they were working on different contracts. So we had two security violations there. One was classified information left unattended, and two, which was the fault of one of the second person, but the first person released classified information to the second person when the second person did not need to know. They worked on a different contract. So we had two security violations there. And we were able to use that information to train the employee workforce who did not have experience with need to know on how to properly release classified information to only those authorized persons with the proper clearance level, secret, confidential, top secret, and the need to know. They had a working relationship, they had a contract that allowed them to view that classified information. So security violations are bad. You want to prevent those security violations. However, once investigated and closed out, they can be used to sharpen your security program and improve your best practices that you have in place, as well as design out poor practices that are part of your security program. We want you to be successful in your endeavors to work on classified contracts and not lose your clearances.